Hi, I'm Tracy Sofra and welcome to the Women of Wealth podcast. Today I want to talk about rebuilding your life after a financial downturn. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about rebuilding your life after losing everything. It can seem like a huge daunting task. Whether you've lost your job or you've going through a divorce or you've just finalised a divorce or you've got, say, huge medical bills, a financial downturn doesn't have to impact your well-being. You can recover from a financial loss, but it's going to take some time. You'll need an action plan to get back on your feet again. So let's talk about that in this podcast. Let's discover and let me share some of my tips on how you can rebuild your life. But just before we do that, let's dive into what could cause you to have a financial downturn in the first place. Let's have a look at some of those aspects. See, financial downturns don't just happen to the economy. That's one thing we hear about all the time. While an economic recession can have an impact on your life, obviously, it's not the only cause. Here are some examples I want to share with you that could cause a financial downturn in your life. Obviously, one of the biggest things is loss of a job, losing your job, yeah? You can lose your job due to, say, layoffs or being made redundant. There's a lot of that going on at the moment. Or if the company you work for, they could go bust or bankrupt. Job loss is also a possibility if your company merges with another. So job loss is on the cards, and that is definitely one of the ways that it can cause a financial downturn in your life, impacts you immediately, impacts you at the hip pocket. You know, unforeseen health issues, this is probably one of the worst because your health is the most important. Your health is your wealth, isn't it? There's no doubt people are getting sick more and more often, and we're susceptible to so many more viruses. So if you were to unexpectedly get sick, if you could create, how would you create an income that would overcome and be able to get past those medical bills that cause a huge financial burden? We're going to look at those sorts of things. But these huge financial burdens that impact you as a result of unforeseen health issues, they could be in the tens of thousands of dollars. And that is a huge factor in, your financial well-being hitting what I call economic downturn. Divorce or separation. Well, divorce is another common cause of financial hardship. It's one of the big ones for women. Many experts say that divorce costs in excess of 20 grand. I feel like that's possibly a very, very conservative figure, not to mention, so we're talking about the legal costs of going through a divorce, but then there is obviously the loss of joint assets and also the loss of having a double income household to a single income household. That can be huge, absolutely massive. Death of a loved one is one that's overlooked very often, but the death of a loved one can also cause financial hardship. There's the cost of the funeral plus any medical expenses that may have been incurred, and you may need to pay a lawyer to help you settle the estate, especially if there's no will in place. So they are just some of the most common causes, if you like, of financial downturn in your life, which is job loss, obviously, unforeseen health issues, divorce or separation, and death of a loved one. But what I'm here to tell you is no matter what your situation is, rebuilding your life after losing everything, it is possible and there is hope. So how do you rebuild your life after losing everything? Well, losing a loved one, going through a divorce or facing medical bills can be overwhelming, as I've said, but it's not impossible to learn how to rebuild your life. And I'm just going to share with you right now some tips for rebuilding yourself even after you've hit rock bottom. So first things first, you need to let go of the past and forgive. Holding on to the past, let's see, before I jump into that, this is such a negative, horrible emotion. Somebody said to me once, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And that really resonated with me. Holding on to the past will only bring you more pain. So if you truly want to start rebuilding yourself, you should forgive those who have wronged you, or if things haven't gone well and you need to move on. Holding a grudge for something that can't be changed and that happened in the past won't actually help you move on. It keeps you stuck in that negative space. Instead, release that negative energy and that person from bringing that negative focus into your life, and reset yourself and reset your focus on a new you. Everything starts and ends with the mind, as I always say, and in the mind, the emotions seem to be very, very strong. So that is why I wanted to start with, letting go and forgiving the past, letting go of that. Once you can almost detox yourself of those emotions, you're kind of going to be more attuned, more ready, and in a better place to be able to get to the next step. And the next step is you need to take stock of where you are financially. That is really important. Knowing what you have in your inventory, if you like, can help you rebuild your life. You need to know what resources you have and what are your biggest liabilities. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? Where do you stand right now? Make a list of all of your income sources as well as all your debt. So this is critical to taking stock of your finances. Have a look at everything you own, everything you owe, and the difference is your financial equity. Then have a really, really good look at your cash flow. Have a look at what's coming in, what's going out. Now, these aren't easy things to do, but they're critical. And without knowing that simple step, how can you possibly move on? You need to take stock of where you are financially, as I've said. Check your credit score. What is your credit score? Yeah. How much do you spend each month? Are you aware of that? Do you know that? What assets do you have? These are really important aspects that you need to revisit. And I know it can seem overwhelming at first. It's a lot of stuff, but that's why I say get rid of the negative emotion first, so you're in a great place and you're in a stable place emotionally and mentally to be able to tackle this next step. But what I got to say here is it's really important that you understand where you are right now. How can you possibly plan for the future or move ahead if you don't know where you are right now? So you need to know that so you can figure out your next steps to building the life that you want and a better future for yourself. Step number 3, after that, after detoxing the negativity and getting a grip of where you are, taking stock of your finances, you need to make a plan to rebuild your life and your finances. So we're feeling great. We've offloaded that negative energy and we've kissed it goodbye. We've taken stock of our financial where we are right now from a financial perspective. Now we need to put that into a plan of action, because without action, it's just, numbers on a page. That really, nothing will come of that unless you take that and do something with it. So once you know where you want to be, it's time to make a plan, figure out the steps to go from where you are now to where you want to be. And I still love pen and paper. I know I'm showing my age, and I love the fact that I can get a piece of a pen and quite a large A3 piece of paper, and even draw it in pictures if you want to help you visualize this. So the far left-hand side of the page can be exactly where you are now, and you can simply state what you want there from a, feeling clear, no more negativity, financial position. You can even put down what that financial position is and your cash flow and whether there's an excess. And then on the right-hand side of that paper, I want you to visualize where you want to go and how we're going to fill that gap. Sometimes doing things on paper, not sometimes actually, most of the time, doing these exercises on paper and visually being able to see it, it's very tactile, it's very in your face, and you're in control, and you can squiggle all sorts of things across there. You can draw lines across there saying this is really important, that's really important, don't forget this and don't forget that. You can draw satellites off that and keep that bit of paper and keep working with that. So how do we set a plan? All right, we need to create specific life and financial goals. Yeah. So try to come up with some specific goals. What you want to do is you want to be quite clear and quite specific And so, for example, do you want to save a certain amount by the end of the year? What are those goals? Would you like to pay off all debt or credit cards, or start an investment, or top up your super, get that cash cushion going? What are some of the specific goals that you want to achieve within the next 12 months? From there, you want to establish a plan of action, an action plan. So figure out the most efficient way to get from where you are now to reaching that end goal. And that end goal on that A3 bit of paper, you can even get, you can do images where you can cut things out, and you can put images on that bit of paper to remind you. It's really important to have a visual. I've used visualization all of my life in terms of setting goals, and I can see things in my head. And somehow the subconscious mind, they say, and it is true, that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and dreams, if you like. So if you visualize this, you will find that your subconscious mind kicks into play, and everything that you do and everything that you say and every action you take somehow leads you down that path. So it's really important that you set these specific goals, and you want to work out the most efficient way of getting from where you are now to achieving that goal. So maybe that means, do you refinance debt? Do you go to if you've got an array of credit cards, if you're in a pretty bad position, do you look at zero transfer balance cards? What do you want to do? Or maybe you need to figure out a better budgeting system. Yeah, maybe the cash flow's out of control and you need a lot of help with that. You may also want to explore avenues for increasing income. These days, like never before, the ability to use the internet to create additional income, and they call it a side hustle. There's an abundance of opportunities to do that. Maybe look at those opportunities to also get you to another level of income that is required to achieve those particular goals. Once you've done that, what do you need to do? Well, you need to track your progress. You need to track that. And I would suggest that you keep an eye on, particularly your cash flow, on a weekly basis at the very start. Every single week, you should be all over your cash flow, checking what's coming in and what's going out, because you're new to this. And when you're new to something, you need more experience and more time and more energy into it. So I would definitely say a weekly thing. Make sure that in order to track your progress, that you take steps that are measurable and that they're realistic, so you stick to them. Yeah. And be sure to track your progress and celebrate the wins, no matter how small they are. We're always underestimating the value of the small wins, but it's all those small wins that lead to the big goal, the attainment of the big goal. Step number 4, I want you to dream big. Hitting rock bottom doesn't mean you have to stay there. Hitting rock bottom means there's only one way to go, and it is up, obviously. So dream big. One of the most important things you should do when you're rebuilding your life is to visualize where you want to be. So I said this before, have a vision, close your eyes and visualize. That's if you're a person that can visualize. I respect that not everyone can do this, but visualize where you want to be in your life and what does that look like, and play it out in your mind. Where do you want your finances to be? What is the ideal life? What does it look like? What's your perfect day? You get up in the morning, what do? Do you have the coffee, or are you a peppermint tea girl? What do you do? What would be the ideal day if you could map it out? What does it look like? Document this, write it down, close your eyes and be as descriptive as possible. So again, grab a journal or a piece of paper and start writing. It really is a form of therapy. I've got to tell you, putting pen to paper, unedited, just dumping it right out of your head, your heart, your mind, your soul. Just let it all out. And keep it simple, like describing the room that you wake up in. It doesn't have to be like a Hollywood movie. We always have these visions of we need to have grandeur and it doesn't, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about the simplicity of life, the simple things that make you the happiest. Is it a Vegemite sandwich? I mean, really, isn't that one of the pleasures of life? Or Vegemite on toast, or a warm cup of tea on a cold winter's day, or snuggling up in a woolly doona and watching a movie in front of telly, whatever it might be. Keep it simple, and it doesn't have to be exorbitant. It just has to be you. So describe the room you're in. What does it feel like? What is the emotion that's going through your mind? What are you doing? Who are you with? All sorts of things. As I mentioned, spending time watching movies with a loved one. Where do you feel, here's another question I just want to pose to you there in the context of what we're talking about. Where do you feel the calmest and happiest? If you were to ask yourself that question, where do you feel the most calmest and happiest? How much money in the bank would make you more comfortable? Do you know that? That's a really interesting question, because most people don't know that off the top of their head, and you really need to go back to your cash flow and be able to work out exactly what's coming in, what's going out. Unless you do that, and we've got to make cash flow a bit more sexy. I know it's not the fun stuff to do when you talk about, dare I speak about budgets. I don't really like the word budget. It feels regressive, as I always say. So I talk about cash flow analysis, meaning what's coming in and what's going out. But we need to make it a little bit more sexy, because at the end of the day, it is that is going to impact the rest of your life with the decisions that you make, with the money that you have left in your hand every pay cycle. So is it weekly, is it fortnightly, is it monthly? And making sure that we're putting those funds in the right place that is going to impact the rest of your life. So that there will help you answer the question I just asked before. How much money in the bank would make you more comfortable? Everyone has their differing levels. I've had clients over the years, some of them needed only 20 grand in the bank and they felt comfortable. Some have needed 90 to 100 grand to feel comfortable. Why? I can't explain it. It's just an individual thing. Is there too much you can have in the bank? Absolutely. Obviously, I'm a financial advisor, so I'm always looking to invest. I'm looking at backups, obviously, from a cash cushion point of view, but there's no need to keep 100 grand in the bank when 20 will suffice and 80 could be invested for the long term. Just a little sidestep there, talking about compound and the power of compound over time. So write down any image that you have and use a mood board to show where you want to be. Images are powerful. So document all of this and write all this down, and even use a mood board if you wish. Step number 5, take it one step at a time. Do not get into overwhelm. You know what happens when there's overwhelm? We freeze, and then what happens? We do nothing. And there's nothing actually worse than doing nothing. You're better off doing something and making a mistake, and you learn and you progress and you keep going, than doing nothing. That is the absolute worst thing you can do. Once you have your plan in place, it's time to take action. And when you're taking action, before you get overwhelmed with doing everything that you need to do, remember to focus on the small things when you're rebuilding yourself. Be kind to yourself, take a breath, take small steps. This is not a race. You're not competing with anyone. You're simply trying to rebuild your life. And so I'll give you an example. If you have a lot of credit card debt, that can mean focusing on, saying, paying one off at a time, or that can simply mean, let me just deal with this credit card issue first and foremost. That's got the highest level of interest based on every other debt I have, as an example. Let me look at the options of zero balance transfer, provided the balance isn't too high and you can pay it off in 24 to say 28 months. Some of the banks have those offerings. Then that is a really, really good strategy to follow. However, you need to actually take each decision that you've made, you need to take it one step at a time. The important thing is that you're doing something, as I mentioned before, and not sitting around getting overwhelmed and doing nothing. So take small steps and make them consistent steps, and your perseverance will pay off. What was I saying before? I was speaking to a group of women in a Q&A session, and we were talking about frustration and hitting brick walls. And one of the things that I heard many, many years ago is frustration is the now it's not coming to me, is it, while I'm chatting here? Frustration is the thing that helps us innovate, that helps us create new things. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing when we hit brick walls, when we get frustrated, because we've got to push through and we've got to get creative about how we push through. So that's a really, really important thing. Step number 6, be gentle with yourself. These days, we are way too hard on ourselves. The expectations are high. Everybody thinks that everybody else that they see online or wherever they see them, that they're so successful, and I'm not measuring up and I'm not good enough. And let me just share something with you. What you see on the surface is not always what's going on behind the scenes. Really important thing to understand. So don't get sucked into the vortex of everybody else is doing so much better than me and I'm just not measuring up, and I need to, I need to get on my bike and you start beating yourself up and being unrealistic about how you're progressing forward and how you want to rebuild your life. Rebuilding your life after losing everything can take time, so don't be so hard on yourself. Take care of yourself and listen to your body and what it needs. There's a thought, right? I'm going to say that again. Listen to your body and what it needs. This is called intuition. This is gut and mind and heart and soul all in the same equation. Listen to it. It's there. It's trying to talk to you. Take time to get outside, spend some time in nature. You know, we are creatures of nature, just like every other animal on this planet. And we need to earth ourselves, take your shoes off and walk on the grass, lie on your back on the grass and look up in the sky. Take some deep breaths, take the dog for a walk, get out in nature and smell the beautiful fresh air. Hopefully where you're living there is fresh air. Another important thing to do is find time to regularly exercise. Exercise is, look, it's highly underrated, and exercise is always connected to weight loss for some strange reason. And exercising isn't going to help you lose weight. Exercise is a brilliant way to release those beautiful endorphins in your mind, to create positive energy, to stretch those muscles in your body, to just get mobile and clear the cobwebs and clear the deck in your head. It's just a brilliant thing to do that. So, and it just has to be intentional movement. You don't, we're not training for the Olympics, or we're not going to run marathons. A simple brisk walk, maybe a Pilates class, maybe some gentle stretching at home, anything that, gets your body moving, gives you time to unwind, detox yourself, ground yourself, give you some space. That space without the noise? It's priceless. These small things can do wonders for your mind, without a doubt. In fact, studies show that being outside can improve your mental health, and that's a well-known fact. Finding ways to nurture yourself is how to rebuild your life with care. And care is the operative word here. Step number 7, this is really important. Practice gratitude and mindfulness. So as you start to rebuild your life and your finances, don't forget to be grateful for the things you do have. A lot of the time we focus on what we don't have and what we need to get and what we continuously striving for. But why don't we just have a look at the things that we do have and how grateful we are for what we already have, and a pat on the back for having them and getting to that point in your life. Be in the present. It's a tough one. I know. I admit it. Be in the present. A lot of us sometimes live in the past. So there's a certain cohort that live in the past. Then there's ones that live in the future, and rarely any of us are in the moment. But remind yourself to be in the moment. It can be easy to let yourself become negative and fall into old habits. And this is what you don't want to do. This is, put something on your screensaver or wherever you are constantly reminded of this, but remember this: never fall back into old habits, never go back to where you don't want to be. Focus on what's ahead of you, look after yourself, be kind to yourself, it's really important, and gratitude will help you do that, and become aware of the current moment by practicing meditation. Meditation is I'm not sure it's understood really well, and I'm not saying I understand it that well, but I do know this: trying to silence the mind and just having some quiet space is good enough. Simply these days, having some quiet, uninterrupted, see that? See how quiet it is? Beautiful space to rest and relax the mind. Just let it go. It's therapeutic. It's beautiful. Or try and incorporate some breathing practices into your everyday routine. I've been doing some breathing exercises that has been extraordinary. You wouldn't think, let me say this, we breathe every day, right? I'm breathing now, okay? And to say to someone, we want you to do some breathing exercises, you kind of think, well, how lame is that, right? It's not actually. It's not. A big breath in, like a really deep breath, and holding that for 5 minutes and then releasing out for 5 and doing that 5 times. That is brilliant. It's expanding the lungs. It's getting extra oxygen to the brain. Just try it. Believe me, it's brilliant and it works, and it really, really helps with mindfulness. Number 8, here's one that I live by. Surround yourself with people who love you. As you're rebuilding your life after losing everything, it's not uncommon to actually feel alone and discouraged. Obviously, you're going to go through a myriad of emotions, but that will pass. That will pass with everything that we're talking about here. Creating drastic change, which is what you're doing, isn't easy, and it's not comfortable, because most of us aren't comfortable with any kind of change, never mind drastic change, big changes in your life. So try and find others who understand and can provide emotional support, who are going to be there for you. They're going to be your cheerleaders. When you're down, they're going to say, no, you can't give up. You've come too far. You know where you were at. They're going to remind you of where you were. They're going to remind you of who you are. Yeah? You need cheerleaders who can help you on this new journey. This is a new path, but this is your path. Not to mention that being in a healthy relationship with people who care about you is also good for your mental and physical health. We know that. We're social creatures. We are designed to connect. Connection is at our very core. Step number 9, focus on getting a little better every single day. A little step at a time every single day. So some of us are guilty of having an all or nothing mentality. Yes, I know this one, very familiar with this one. It's an all or nothing mentality, but there's no such thing as getting everything all at once without doing the tiny little steps, is there? So it's essential to remember that the key to rebuilding your life and your finances is to take baby steps. And again, as I said before, this is not a race. You are not competing with anyone else. It's okay to take baby steps. Setting small goals to achieve the big goals makes them much easier to accomplish and prevents you from getting overwhelmed. So I'm sure you've all heard, how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. And this is exactly what I'm talking about here. So if you can picture that in your mind, that will make a lot more sense. So let me give you the simplest example that might seem too simple, but let's go for it, right? So, for instance, if you saved $1 every single day, it's better than saving nothing. I always say, I've gone to Pilates today and it was better than what I was going to do, which was nothing. So doing something is always better than doing nothing. So if you saved $1 a day, and you might say, $1, Trace, yeah, $1 a day versus doing nothing, you'd end up with nothing. But after one day, you get $1, right? So in fact, if you saved $1 every day for a year, that's $365 you've got that you didn't have before. So just think of it in the most simplistic way. I don't have to do the compound calculator here or, do the future values and all of this sort of stuff. Think of it in that very simple way that hits home. $1 a day, $365 at the end of the year. If you did nothing, you'd have $0. If you did $1 a day, you had $365. How good's that? Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It works for personal goals as well. It's exactly the same philosophy. And things like obviously setting that simple, keeping it simple and taking baby steps with your finances in that way. Same thing works for when you want to exercise. Try to exercise 10 minutes a day, yeah, and see how that works for you. That held me back for so many years when I was contemplating going back to a personal trainer, and I would think of the hour, But what I did was I broke it down before I went to the personal trainer of exercising 10 minutes a day. Then I took it to 20 minutes a day, and I built up to the hour and finally went back. Start with something, but start. That's the important thing. So get inspired and rebuild your life. It is possible. It does take time. It won't be easy. You will come up against roadblocks, but you are stronger and more resilient than you know. You're a powerhouse, and when you need it, that turbocharge is going to kick in. And I know that. I've seen it multiple times over the last 3 decades working with women. So now you know how to rebuild your life. Remember that rebuilding yourself and your life after a financial downturn isn't always easy. However, with a lot of perseverance and planning, it is absolutely possible. Figure out what your ideal life would look like. Set up a plan to tackle your financial hardships. Take care of your mental health and surround yourself with caring, supportive people. Take each day at a time. And little by little, you'll start to see your life improve, without a doubt. They are the simple steps that you need to keep in mind as a summary of what we've just spoken about. If this is something you're currently struggling with and wanting to rebuild your life, then make sure to book a call with one of our strategists. At WOW, we have a multitude of ways we can help you. You simply have to go to wowwomen.com.au, click the link to our programs, and best of all, the strategist call is free. Make sure to subscribe now to our podcast on your favourite podcast platform, and be sure to check out all the other episodes that have amazing pearls of wisdom that you may enjoy. Thanks for joining me.